is that the funny thing about Trump and people in the South? It's like they took really a New York Democrat. He's a big government. It's very clear he's a big government guy. He's happy to do all these executive orders, right?
Yeah.
A rich guy, an elitist, all of those things. Now I get it. He was out of the system. He was out of the political system, so he's thought of as an outsider. But he's not religious. There's no reason to believe that he believes in Christianity. The one time he sweat during the whole campaign was when he went to Liberty University and had to, repeat the Corinthians or whatever. So it's like, is that the irony with them? It's like,
oh yes,
they love him, and then
I've thought and I've talked a lot about this exact thing because I feel so naive about this now, but like I was genuinely stunned when Donald Trump actually won. I knew that there was, and I shouldn't have been because I'm from where he won.
Yeah.
If anybody, I should have been. Now, I was like cautioning people the whole time, like, look, there's something real here, but at the end of the day, I didn't think it would happen, and I was shocked. And maybe the biggest reason is, and I felt this way throughout his whole campaign. I was looking around like, what is going on? Because this is not an assumption or a like theory. I promise you, I know this to be true. If we could go back in time, like 5-6 years ago, but whenever it was before he first went after Obama for being an African Muslim or whatever, if we could go back to pre that, and you polled rednecks, rural working class Americans, what do you think about Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump's been famous for decades. So like, what do you think about Donald Trump, the dude? It would have been almost universally negative. I promise you. They would have hated everything, and they did hate everything about him until like he got in all this political shit and started pandering to him. That they were like, he's an elitist, silver spoon up his ass Yankee who thinks he's better than everybody and thinks he's better than me and thinks he knows everything, and he's like I said, big city Democrat, whatever. Like they would have hated everything about him. And so the whole time I was, throughout his entire rise, I was looking around like, really? This dude?
Yeah.
Really? And what that says to me, or what I've told myself anyway, to make sense of it is, that just goes to show how desperate they were for a champion of any kind. Like they were so desperate for that even Donald Trump was good enough for them to fill that bill. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's legit in a way? Because I get that from a lot of people. I mean, I get mail. My audience is all over the place, from far left people to anarchists to everything, everywhere. But I get a lot of that. People just saying, you know what? The system, I've had it. I've just had it. You think that's like a legit reason to vote for someone that you may have nothing in common with, that you may think is a snake oil salesman? Is that sometimes the right way to do it?
Not to me, no. I've never agreed with that. I've heard a lot of that too, of a lot of people. So what I was talking about is a little bit different when you talk about like people in like my hometown where, they blame NAFTA and they blame the Clintons and whatever else for the factory leaving and all this. It's more than just, oh, he's shaking the system up. He was making promises directly to them. I'm going to bring your job back and restore your livelihood and all this stuff. And that connected with people. And I don't think they thought he was a snake oil salesman, or even if deep down maybe they did a little bit. I think they lied to themselves and deluded themselves into believing he wasn't. But I've also encountered a lot of people who are like you just said. They're like, you know what? We shake things up. That's what we need. This guy's something different. Whatever we need. This system's broken. Let's mix it up a little bit. And I've never been on board with that. Yeah. Like the general premise of it, yeah, all right, okay, I kind of am with you, but in this iteration, really? Like this is how you want to manifest that, is through Donald Trump? Like, no, man. Give me the system for 4 or 8 more years, whatever, and then let's get a different maverick in there who isn't this guy. I've never agreed with that.
Yeah. Do you think we just sort of forget, that all of us, forgetting what our political allegiance is, that we all kind of just forget how actually good it is here?
Yes.
Not to say that there aren't problems, of course.
Yes.
But that it's pretty damn good here.
Man, I've actually been trying to work on a bit about that for a long time now, about basically that, about things are better here now than they've been for almost any group of people you can name ever before. And that's even true for rural white people, except things were better for them in a couple decades ago. But I'm saying if you go back further than that,
right, it wasn't so great for them.
It was absolutely horrible. They were sharecroppers. You know what I mean? So they had a little window of prosperity there where small town America was a real thing, and industrialism and whatever else. Outside of that little window of time though, this is still better than they've had it historically ever before. And that's true for most people. And yes, people absolutely lose sight of that. It's also less violent now than it historically than it's ever been before. And people forget all that too.
Yeah.
And that drives me crazy sometimes, because I think people need to maintain that perspective. Like, this is not Armageddon. You know what I mean? Like, shit is crazy, but like, we're still all right,
Yeah. What do you make about the Armageddon people? Because one of the things I talk about here all the time is the free speech situation, which I think is going to get a lot worse. I mean, it's very clear that a certain amount of people now think it's okay to punch Nazis or punch anyone you think might be a Nazi. And if someone's speaking at a school you don't like, you can burn down the school and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What do we do? So what do us, as the liberals in this situation that are supposed to defend free speech, what do we do to calm some of these people down? I've been trying to figure it out. I don't know that I got there yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, because anytime, I'm gonna be honest, anytime that I've tried to like touch on some of that, because I have in some of my videos, I've tried to say things that are in line with what we're talking about right now, and they never get the kind of response that my other videos just railing on Trump or the right or whatever do. Everything I've ever said in any of my videos, I believe, and that's my genuine thoughts.
Yeah.
But anything that's ever been like kind of challenging in that way, they're always like, it's almost like I can feel the internet being like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we don't want to hear all that. You know what I mean? Like, people just don't want to hear it.
But I thought the left is supposed to be the tolerant side.
I know.
Aren't they supposed to be the tolerant people?
Yeah, and see that, it's been that way for my people my whole life. Meaning, like, for years and years, I've been very aware of the hypocrisy of liberals who, abhor any kind of intolerance or discrimination, being so openly prejudiced towards people like me.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. My whole life it's been that way. And I've always thought that was bullshit. Like, do you not realize that that's still intolerant? And it's always been that way about, poor white trash, rednecks, whatever else. But now it's like spreading into this, like, they're intolerant of anybody who doesn't agree with them on every single thing. You're a Nazi or whatever, and stoking the fires of the patriarchy and all this shit because you.
I assume you were against punching the Nazi, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm against it. I don't want to assume anything. I take that back.
I don't give a shit that a Nazi got punched. like that guy getting punched is fine with me. Especially if but I wish it would have just happened in a bar somewhere and somebody just whipped his ass or whatever, because he probably needs his ass whipped.
Yeah.
But do I think that we need to make it a thing where we just go around punching people that say things we disagree with? No, absolutely not, even if they're Nazis. It's like when the ACLU defended the Ku Klux Klan or whatever in a court case once over a freedom of speech issue, and like, that's the way it should be. You know what I mean? That's fair. Like, to hell with the Klan, to hell with Nazis, obviously.
Yeah, people think we're in Indiana Jones again.
I know. It's ridiculous. Like, it has to go both ways. It's like, and this is a slightly different subject, but it's like on the topic of what is and is not okay to joke about. It's like Trey Parker and Matt Stone said on South Park, they tackled it and they're like, look, either all of it's okay or none of it is. And that's how I feel about free speech in general. Like, you don't have to like the awful shit that he's saying, but this is America, and he has the right to say it. You know what I mean? Just like we have the right to say, I have the right, man, because I'd go after shitty white people, as I term them, hard all the time. And, if I didn't have the ability to do that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I wouldn't have a career. I'd just be doing whatever else. And I realize that. So I'm not going to be hypocritical and say that, only I should have the right to do it. Well, because I'm right and he's wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and of course I believe that he's wrong, but it doesn't matter. That's not how it works. You have to apply it, across the board consistently.
It's almost like you have to have ideals even when they're hard to have.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
How many years have you been doing stand-up?
6.5.
6.5. Man, I did 12 years of stand-up.
Before you got into all this,
Before I
right?
started doing all this crazy shit. And I was telling you before how I got to start doing it again now.
Yeah.
And I've been speaking to colleges and stuff and sort of working some stand-up in because I see there's such a need for people to say some uncomfortable things. But I'm curious, in your 6.5 years, have you seen the way language has changed? Was there something that you might have said 6 years ago that you think now just because everyone's on Twitter and Snapchatting your whole set and all that shit,
Yep.
that you would be afraid of saying?
It's hard as a comedian to sit here and say that I'm afraid of saying anything, but like,
Yeah.
but yes, like one thing that bothers me is like if I'm doing, and I still do a lot of this, and I can feel people pull back sometimes, but usually it's okay. But if I'm doing a bit about something that shitty people do or believe, right? And so like in the bit I'm talking about this hypothetical racist or bigot or whatever, and like you say, like if it's a homophobic thing, and you in the bit I say queer or faggot or whatever, but it's not me saying it. I'm talking about this guy saying it, and then I tear that dude apart right after that for being shitty. But it doesn't matter to a lot of people. Just having said the word, they're like, "Oh God, no!
Yeah.
Why would you do that?" And it's like, well, you're not listening to me. And I don't like to sugarcoat things and act like that's not how those people are. You know what I mean? Like that's what that hypothetical dude would say, and that's the whole point of this whole bit or whatever. But none of that matters to people. All that matters is literally just the word, the buzzwords or whatever. And sometimes it's like buzz ideas or whatever. You know what I mean? That you're just not allowed to joke about or talk about, no matter what. And I absolutely hate that shit.
And that's the death of comedy, because we need satire. So you're trying to satire something to point out hypocrisy or whatever. The Charlie Hebdo people said, well, they were mocking Muhammad. They were mocking extremists, actually. And therein lies the rub. I used to do a bit about the Transformers before they were the movies, like from the 80s Transformers, how they were all different racial people. And I used to act out a thing. Jazz, he was the one black Transformer, and I used to say the N-word on stage. And it would always get a huge laugh. And I remember one time that it suddenly got a groan from a certain amount of the crowd, and I remember thinking, wow, I'm never going to tell that joke again. And I have no desire to say the N-word. It was just me acting out this fictional robot, futuristic robot that doesn't exist, but satire.
And this has gotten better for me for sure, because most people at my shows in particular, they sort of know what I'm about, know what they're getting into. But like, man, with this accent, you literally can't even say black people. You know what I mean? Like, you just say black people, and it's like, oh, Jesus, this is about to be terrible. You know what I mean? Like, people immediately recoil because of just the way it sounds. So, I mean, yes, I've definitely dealt with that kind of thing. And one of my earliest videos, I remember I was acting out my great-great-grandmother, who's dead. And I said, she's dead, but if she was still alive, she wouldn't be comfortable eating cornbread next to a colored boy, right? Because she wouldn't even, colored boy is cleaning it up. You know what I mean? That's not what she would say, but it's like closer to it. And I still got so many messages from people that were like, I don't know if you know this, or maybe it's different in Tennessee, but we don't really say colored anymore, that kind of thing. It's like, of fucking course I know that. That's the point of the joke, is that it's this antiquated, out-of-date ideal that she would have, and I'm making fun of it.
Yeah.
But just the word, just referring to a black person as colored, no matter the context, sets some people off. And it's that whole attitude that's like, that is the reason that so many people hate liberals. Is that kind of thing, because it's just ridiculous.
What about the idea that, so you make that joke about your great-great-grandma, and that people now look at historical figures and try to give them the morality of 2017. Like, I would guess, I don't know, but I would guess your great-great-grandma probably was a pretty decent woman and raised some kids and blah, blah, blah. Yes, maybe there was some racial stuff there too, which is a sign of that. But that we suddenly give our morality of today to everyone else, that's a really dangerous thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. That's another thing too. Like, that's a big reason why I try to be a little more like understanding, or I'm not just so immediately like, oh, fuck you to people on the far right or whatever, because I've known so many of them and loved them. You know what I mean? Like both my grandfathers are dead. If they were here though, they probably would have voted for Donald Trump, right? I love the shit out of both of my grandpas and miss them all the time. You know what I mean? And like, people just shouldn't, but they're from a different time. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't bad people, but like both of them, man, the N-word, oh God. You know what I mean? All the time. But like, it was like, that's just how people talked when they were growing up or over their lives or whatever. I remember one time, this is a true story, and this is in my book too, but there was a fight between a white kid and a black kid in the town, downtown, like town square of Salina, my hometown, when I was in high school. Small town, everybody's talking about it because the white kid got the shit beat out of him. And everybody was talking about it. And so I was at my grandpa's car lot the next day, and he asked me, what was that about? What happened? And I was like, well, I think, I think Jimmy called Kyle the N-word or something like that. And my grandpa goes, oh, what the hell do you want him to call him, Chinese? Because like in his mind, he was like, well, yeah, and like he wasn't trying to be funny. He wasn't trying, like that was his genuine first thought, and he was just a product of his time, and that's how. And that my grandpa was born in 1935, so when you start talking about people in the 1800s or whatever, yeah, trying to apply today's standards to them is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
I'm curious, do you ever get it the other way where you'll say something about redneck culture and people that are still part of that culture will be like, you're making us all look like idiots, or you're making us all look backwards or whatever?
I get a lot of, and especially in my hometown, I get a lot of, oh, he's selling his people out. Like that I'm just like exploiting them for like a gimmick or whatever. But it's not a gimmick. It is who I am, so I don't look at it that way at all. Yeah. Also, anybody that grew up with me should know better because, as we talked about earlier, like I've always been this guy. None of them should be surprised by this. Yeah. And but I get a lot of that. But no, I remember what I said earlier about rednecks and not giving a damn what people think. I don't get much of like, oh, you shouldn't be making fun of me, man, or whatever. Like I'll just get like, fuck you, queer, like that. But not in a like.
You're queer for them, yeah.
Right, not in the way. Yes, I'm a queer to them. Like not in the way that they're offended by the redneck jokes. They're offended by my ideas.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's about it. I don't really get a lot of like, oh, you're making us all look bad, because they genuinely, for the most part, don't give a shit how they look to other groups of people or whatever.
Yeah. Does all this really show how like important comedy is to almost everything? Because if you look at Foxworthy and those guys, it was the Redneck Comedy Tour, right? That's what it was called.
The blue collar.
Blue collar comedy tour. That was finally an outlet for some of these people that we're talking about to just have their shit heard, and that's just an incredibly powerful thing.
Yeah, I completely agree and totally think that comedy is more important now than it's been in a long time. Weirdly enough, and I didn't check this. This was just in the middle of another interview for a UK magazine, and so I'm talking to this British reporter, and she asked me a question. Apparently, Armando Iannucci, you know who that is?
Yeah, he's Veep. The EP for Veep. Yeah.
Veep, and he made In the Loop, the movie, and before that in the UK, The Thick of It. I'm a huge fan of that guy, colossal fan. He's one of my favorite comedy writers on planet Earth. And she was like, "Did you hear what he said the other day?" And I didn't. I was like, "No, I guess it was news over there or whatever." And she said that, according to her, he said that he thinks that it's time to step away from joking about a lot of these things because we need to take it seriously and not joke about it. And I told her, I was like, well, I still love his work and I'm a huge fan, but I could not possibly disagree more strongly with that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're talking about, I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
He's a comedy writer, like that's my whole job, is to make fun of shit. And I think you need comedy in times like this because otherwise it's just darkness. You know what I mean? Like it makes it easier to deal with because like people do need to talk about it seriously. The people like, politicians and like people are actually in the field or whatever, they do need to take this shit seriously. They absolutely do, because it's very serious. But I'm a comedian. I don't need to take it. That's not my role.
Right.
My role is to take the piss out of it.
Yeah.
To use, his vernacular. And like I don't know why we would stop now. To me, it's more important now than it ever is. And again, if he didn't actually say that, then whatever. But
well, we're going to clip this and send it directly to his people.
Right.
And,
but according to a British reporter, that was a quote from him, and I was just kind of floored. Like, no, it's the opposite.
I've seen a lot of that though, where comics, people that I generally respect and like, where they've gone off the deep end, where it's like, no, they're not being funny anymore. They're just preaching all the time, and it's like, if George Carlin was around, and I say this on the show almost every week, like every morning I wake up and I'm like, fuck, where the hell's George Carlin when we need him more than ever?
Right.
He would still be being funny about this.
Without a doubt.
And that goes to prove your point, that that's what we need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we did it. We did a New Yorker, LA guy, and a redneck. We did an hour.
This has been an hour?
I didn't look down once. We
No,
didn't
you
even
didn't.
stop. We said we were going to stop once.
Yeah, we rolled right through. Yeah.
We didn't even stop.
Flew by.
It flew by. I have a feeling we're going to cross paths again.
I think so. I
All
hope
right.
so.
I hope so too.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, and you've only been out
Appreciate
to
it,
LA for you're
Dave.
like,
Not even a month.
Jesus.
It'll be a month and like 4 or 5 more days.
Yeah. Well, you probably got to get a spray tan and
Right, yeah,
You
I
have a
know.
trainer yet?
I know,
And
no.
Are you eating carbs? Can you
I'm
you got to get
all,
off the
man,
gluten?
all the carbs, all the carbs, all the gluten, dairy, all that. I'm doing a piss poor job of that.
Yeah.
That part of being a Californian. We did. Me and Corey and Drew. We came out here, and one of the first things we did was shotgun some LaCroix just to sort of get in the mindset. So yeah, I'm dipping my toes in the water.
Small steps.
Yeah, baby
Small
steps.
steps.
Yeah,
All right. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you.
pleasure's all mine.
All right, guys. For more on Trae and to find out his tour dates on the Well Read Comedy Tour, check out Facebook.com/Trae Crowder.